Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Michael Reads. Um, could you please just let me know if the sound is coming through okay? And then once I know that the sound's all right, I will continue. Okay. I'll just double check these settings, and then yeah, all looks fine. All looks good. And yes, hello again. If this is your first time on the channel, a very warm welcome to you. And I'm really glad that you found your way here. And if you've been here before, thank you for continuing to show up. Um, before we begin, it's just a small but sincere request. If you could please, I'll be really if you enjoy these thoughtful discussions, timeless books, and conversations like this that aim to make us better thinkers and better people, please subscribe to the channel, like the stream, and share it with someone who might benefit from it. It genuinely helps the space grow and reach people that it's meant to reach. Now, this is the first live stream of 2026. So, first and foremost, I want to wish every one of you a year filled with clarity, discipline, growth, and most importantly, purpose. Since November, it's been a time of steady progress for this channel. What started as an idea has grown into a space for reflection, for learning, and it encourages open conversation. So in 2026, uh, my focus is simple. I would like to focus on more consistency, into delve into deeper discussion, and build a stronger community, um, with content that remains thoughtful rather than rushed. Um, this channel, like I've mentioned before, it's not about trends, it's about timeless ideas. So, with that, it brings us to today's live stream. I am introducing a new book today. Last year, we completed The Art of War by Sun Tzu. But today, we are going into we're beginning a new journey with a remarkable book called Bushido. Bushido. I do apologize. I might get the pronunciation wrong several times. So, people from Japan, I don't mean any disrespect. I mean this book is remarkable, and I would like to give it the respect that it commands. So if I am pronouncing this wrong, please let me know in the comments. Um, but from what I understand, is Bushido is often described as the way of the warrior, but at its core, it's an ethical system, a moral framework that shaped conduct, leadership, and personal responsibility. This book is not about violence or warfare, it's about character, discipline, honor, and self mastery. And these are values that feel especially relevant in the modern world. So we will be going into the first chapter today, Bushido as an ethical system. In the first chapter, the author, Inazo Nitobe, he introduces Bushido not as a written law, but as a lived code, which is passed down through example, tradition, and inner discipline. So Bushido functioned as a moral compass, and it guided behavior when no one. It guided behavior when no one was watching. It shaped decisions not through fear of punishment, but through a sense of duty and honor. Uh, Rather than asking, what can I get away with? Um, Bushido asked, what is the right thing to do? The author explains that this ethical system was rooted in several influences. Uh, Confucian morality, and I'll just go on my other screen here. Confucian a Confucian is a follower or believer in teachings of the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius. Right, so this book is rooted in Confucian morality, in Buddhist self-control, and in Shinto reverence for tradition. And Shinto is a Japanese religion dating from the early 8th century, and incorporating uh, the worship of ancestors and nature spirits and a belief in sacred power. Yeah. So this book is going to be amazing. But that's what made Bushido unique. Um, and its emphasis is on action. Now, morality was not something uh, to be discussed endlessly. It was something to be embodied. At its heart, Bushido teaches that character must precede comfort, that discipline shapes freedom, and that true strength is found in self restraint rather than dominance. Uh, these ideas they challenge us to reflect on how we live today. Um, like, how do we act when rules are unclear? How do we carry responsibility? And how do we respond when doing the right thing costs us something? As we move forward through this book together, the goal isn't to romanticize the past, is to extract timeless principles and apply them thoughtfully to our modern lives. So I encourage you to share your thoughts in the chat. If you disagree, could you please disagree respectfully? If you have any questions you'd like to ask, um, take part in the conversation. This channel, I'm hoping it grows stronger, um, and I'm hoping that it grows stronger with us being together. So thank you for being here, and welcome to the beginning of Bushido with me here on Michael Reads. I'll just get myself ready, and I'll sort my lighting out. Right. So, Bushido as an ethical system. I'll just take a sip of this. Right. Chivalry is a flower no less indigenous to the soil of Japan than its emblem. The cherry blossom, nor is it a dried up specimen of an antique virtue preserved in the herbarium of our history. It is still a living object of power and beauty among us, and if it assumes no tangible shape or form, it is not the less sense the moral atmosphere and makes us aware that we are still under its potent spell. The conditions of society which brought it forth and nourished it have long disappeared, but as those far off stars which once were and are not still continue to shed their rays upon us, so the light of chivalry, which was a child of feudalism, still illuminates our moral path, surviving its mother institution. It is a pleasure to me to reflect upon this subject in the language of Burke, who uttered the well known touching eulogy over the neglected beer of its European prototype. It argues a sad defect of the information concerning the Far East when so erudite a scholar as Dr. George Miller did not hesitate to affirm that chivalry or any other similar institution has ever existed either among the nations of antiquity or among the modern Orientals. Such ignorance, however, is amply excusable, as the third edition of the good doctor's work appeared the same year that Commodore Perry was knocking at the portals of our exclusivi- exclusivism. More than a decade later, about the time that our feudalism was in the last throes of existence, Karl Marx, writing his Capital, called the attention of his readers to the peculiar advantage of studying the social and potential institutions of feudalism, as then to be seen in living form only in Japan. I would likewise invite the Western historical and ethical student to the study of chivalry in the Japan of the present. Enticing as is a historical disquisition on the comparison between European and Japanese feudalism and chivalry, it is not the purpose of this paper to enter into it at length. My attempt is rather to relate, firstly, the origin and sources of our chivalry, secondly, its character and teaching, thirdly, its influence among the masses, and fourthly, the continuity and performance of its influence. Of these several points, the first will be only brief and cursory, or else I should have to take my readers into the devious parts of our national history. The second will be dwelt upon at greater length, as being most likely to interest students of international ethics and comparative ethology in our ways of thought and action, and the rest will be dealt with as corollaries. The Japanese word which I have roughly rendered chivalry is in the original more expressive than is more expressive than horsemanship. Bushido means literally military knight ways, the ways which fighting nobles should observe in their daily life as well as in their vocation. In a word, the precepts of knighthood, the noblesse oblige of the warrior class, Having thus given its literal significance, I may be allowed henceforth to use the word in the original. The use of the original term is also advisable for the reason that a teaching so circumscribed and unique, engendering a cast of mind and character so peculiar, so local, must wear the badge of its singularity and its face. Then some words have a national timbre so expressive of race characteristics, and the best of translators can do them but scant justice, not to say positive injustice and grievance. Who can improve by translation what the German Gemuth signifies, or who does not feel the difference between the two words verbally so closely allied as the English gentleman and the French gentilhomme? Bushido, then, is the code of moral principles which the knights were required or instructed to observe. It is not a written code. At best, it consists of a few maxims handed down from mouth to mouth or coming from the pen of some well known warrior or savant. More frequently, it is a code unuttered and unwritten, possessing all the more and the powerful sanction of veritable deed and of a law written on the fleshly tablets of the heart. It was founded not on the creation of one brain, however able, or on the life of a single personage, however renowned. It was an organic growth of decades and centuries of military career. It perhaps fills the same position in the history of ethics that the English Constitution does in political history, yet it has had nothing to compare with the Magna Charta or the Habeas Corpus Act. True, early in the 17th century, military statutes are promul- promulgated, but their 13 short articles were taken up mostly with marriages, castles, leagues, etc., and didactic regulations were but meagerly touched upon. We cannot, therefore, point out any definite time and place and say, here it is, fountain ahead. Only as it attains consciousness in the feudal age, its origin, in respect to time, may be identified with feudalism. But feudalism itself is woven of many threads, and Bushido shares its intricate nature. As in England, the political institutions of feudalism may be said to date from the Norman conquest, so we may say that in Japan its rise was simultaneous with the ascendancy of Yoritomo late in the 12th century. As, however, in England we find the social elements of feudalism far back in the period previous to William the Conqueror, so too the germs of feudalism in Japan had been long existent before the period I have mentioned. Again, in Japan as in Europe, when feudalism was formally inaugurated, the professional class of warriors naturally came into prominence. These were known as samurai, meaning literally, like the Old English, knight, guards, or attendants, resembling in character the soldiery whom Caesar mentioned as existing in Aquitania, or the comitati who, according to Tacitus, followed Germanic chiefs in his time, or to take a still later parallel, the milites medi that one reads about in the history of medieval Europe. A cynical Japanese word, buke or bushi, fighting knights, was also adopted in common use. They were a privileged class and must originally have been rough breed who made fighting their vocation. The class was naturally recruited in a long period of constant warfare from the manliest and the most adventurous, and all the while the process of elimination went on, the timid and the feeble being sorted out, and only a rude race, all masculine with brutish strength, to borrow Emerson's phrase, surviving to form families and the ranks of the samurai. Coming to profess great honor and great privileges, and correspondingly great responsibilities, they soon felt the need of a common standard of behavior, especially as they were always on a belligerent footing and belonged to different clans. Just as physicians limit competition among themselves by professional courtesy, just as lawyers sit in courts of honor in cases of violated etiquette, so must also warriors possess some resort for final judgment in their misdemeanors. Fair play and fight. What fertile germs of morality lie in this primitive sense of savagery and childhood? It is not the root of all is it not the root of all military and civic virtues? We smile as we had outgrown it at the boyish desire of the small Britisher Tom Brown to leave behind him the name of a fellow who never bullied a little boy or turned his back on a big one. And yet, who does not know that his desire is the cornerstone on which moral structures of mighty dimensions can be reared? May I not go even so far as to say that the gentlest and most peace loving of religions endorses this aspiration? This desire of Tom's in, is the basis on which the greatness of England is largely built, and it will not take us long to discover that Bushido does not stand on a lesser pedestal, if fighting in itself, be it offensive or defensive, is, as Quakers rightly testify, brutal and wrong. We still say with Lessing, we know from what failings our virtue springs. Sneaks and cowards are epithets of the worst opprobrium to healthy, simple natures. Childhood begins life with these notions, and knighthood also. But as life grows larger and its relations many sided, the early faith seeks sanction from higher authority and more rational sources for its own justification, satisfaction, and development. If military interests had operated alone, without higher moral support, how far short of chivalry would the ideal of knighthood have fallen? In Europe, Christianity interpreted with concessions convenient to chivalry infused it nevertheless with spiritual data. Religion, war, and glory were the three souls of a perfect Christian knight, says Lamartine. In Japan, there were several. With that line, that brings us to the end of that reading. So I have compiled just a few finishing thoughts to this chapter. Um, I always encourage everyone. It's always great to listen, but if you do get the book yourself, um, you can follow as we go through these. If you're not really into reading, just by following while I'm on these live chats, it might bring you into the habit of actually reading a lot more and benefiting from these books. Now, as we close this first chapter, it's worth asking why Bushido feels so relevant now. Um, in the previous year and years before, many of our deepest human concerns are not technological. I feel they're more internal. Um, a loss of direction, a lack of meaning, anxiety about our identities, burnout, and just general disconnection. And the quiet fear that we're just too busy, but we're not making any progress. Bushido speaks directly to some of these struggles. Uh, in a world where we're overwhelmed by choice, um, Bushido it offers some principles. Uh, in a culture obsessed with outcomes, Bushido reminds us that character comes first. In an age of constant comparison, it teaches self mastery over external validation. We'll get more of a sense of all of that as we go through the book. Um, but Bushido doesn't ask us to. It doesn't ask us to be perfect, not in the least bit. But it asks us to be responsible. It asks us to be responsible for our actions, responsible for our conduct, and responsible for the standards that we hold when no one is watching. One of the greatest concerns today is the feeling of being an anchored, pulled in every direction, and yet we're grounded to nothing. So Bushido answers this by reminding us that a strong inner code it creates stability even when the world is uncertain. Um, it's an ethical system, and it teaches us that discipline is not restriction; it's more freedom, and that honor is not reputation; it is alignment between thought and action. It also um, teaches us that leadership begins not with authority, but with self command. And as we move forward through this book, the invitation is simple but demanding to reflect on the values that we live by, to refine our internal campus, and to choose principle over impulse again and again. because when the world feels unstable, uh, ultimately it is ethics and not information that sustain us. So before we close, I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts. If something from this evening's discussion resonated with you or even challenged you, feel free to share in the comments or chat. Um, I mean, this channel, I'm hoping it grows through conversation and not monologue. So if you'd like to continue with this journey, it hasn't begun. Honestly, I feel it's going to be an epic one. So make sure you turn on your notifications so you're alerted when the next live stream goes live and when I post updates on the community page. That's where I'll be sharing upcoming reads, schedule changes, and reflections between streams. I'm always open to feedback, what works, what doesn't, and what you'd like to see more of. Your input helps shape the direction of the channel, and it is always appreciated. So thank you for giving me your time, your attention, and your presence this evening. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a great evening and you've taken something meaningful from today and carry it with you beyond the stream. So with that, I will see you all on the next one.